Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are active, and to be honest, we're still shocked at what can only be explained as a profound change in the terrain of professional tennis. If you're only as you join us, you may be examining the news reports from Doha this dusk and pondering whether there's been an error. You may be examining the decibel level, the attendance statistics readings, as well as the information on ticket sales from I'm Curious as to whether the Qatar Open finals were pushed forward by 1 week. However, this was not a final. No error. This wasn't a semi-final. This wasn't even a conflict between the well-known titans of the top 5 WTA players. What we observed at the Khalifa International today, the squash and tennis complex, was a round of 64 for the first round match discovered that by all conventional metrics ought to have been silent. Typical Monday afternoon fare. However, the city of Doha did not merely host a game of tennis. It held a cultural occurrence. The headline is actual, and there are vibrations and shockwaves across the whole athletic globe, correct? Right now, Alexandra Eala, who is 20 years old, a Filipino sensation, is not only here, she has successfully taken over Qatar. We are discussing a sold-out stadium. I'll say that again because I want the seriousness of this to become clear. A sold-out first-round center court match. Throughout the Qatar Totals History Energies Open, a competition with held Grand Slam winners, legends, and the top spots in the globe, it is about unheard of to witness such hysteria, this level of audience involvement, this early in the week of the tournament. Typically, as the stakes rise, the stands fill up, increase as we get closer to the trophy presentation. However, today the script was reversed. The tickets were disappeared before the first ball had even been hit. Outside the complex, the queues for blocks stretch. A sea of blue, crimson, white, and yellow. The hues of the painting the streets with the Philippine flag Doha in a colorful demonstration of national pride that goes beyond athletics. The ELA is what the organizers are calling it. Impact. However, to be honest, that phrase feels it would be an understatement to say that occurred today in court. We observed earlier this week's reporting remarks from professionals, such as Daria Seville, implying that Ella was turning into a box office treasure trove. According to Seville, if she would relocate if she were a tournament director, heaven and earth in order to attract Ella. And we witnessed the reason today. The vitality within that stadium. There was more than encouraging. It had an electric charge. It was deafening. It was the type of environment you reserve for a final of the Davis Cup, or not a WTA 1000 opening, but a World Cup match. However, we must not allow the spectacle to overshadow the sport due to there are 2 stories here. Indeed, the story was about the audience, but the player merited that tale. Ella Alexandra, ranked climbing world number 45, walked onto that court with the burden of a country, and perhaps more intimidatingly, the burden of a curse in statistics that has plagued her early career. She was facing the Czech Republic's Teresa Valentova. For the uninformed viewer, that name may simply be another adversary, but for people who have tracked Ella's path, you are aware of the Czech jinx's significance. Ella had been checked before today, opponents several times while on tour, and each and every time she had left second best. It was turning into a mental obstacle, an odd statistical occurrence where the hard-hitting, disciplined Czech tennis appeared to be the Ella's rough, lefty's kryptonite inventiveness. She was defeated by Valentova, prior to a humiliating straight-set loss only last year in Japan. The commentators understood this. The betting markets were aware of this. There was a great deal of pressure. You've 7,000 yelling spectators anticipating a crowning, but you're looking across the net at a participant who has previously possessed you. Alex Ella, that is the crucible, entered the present day. Additionally, the outcome, this is the reason we watch sports. That's the reason we can't get enough of these stories. I didn't merely play. She dismantled the story. She didn't merely rely on the crowd. She captured that vitality and used as a weapon against the historical records. Doha's astonishment is more than just that every seat was occupied. The shock is a total alteration of the atmosphere. We are using tennis for courteous applause. We're quiet down, please. We had a wall of sound. Each forehand champion was accompanied by a roar that made the camera tremble. Lenses, all of the break points that were saved were like a match point. It was applauded. Additionally, For Valentova deserves a great deal of credit because opposing that type of partisan anger is a nightmare. However, this was Eala's platform. The Khalifa was turned by her into the Araneta Coliseum complex. She transformed the individual sport into a team sport. Endeavor with thousands of foreign OFWs or Filipino laborers are her partner for doubles. This is an important moment. It is significant because it indicates a change in the seriousness of the economic and cultural journey. The big three have appeared in men's tennis either fades or retires. We are always searching for the next generation of movable superstars who has the ability to sell tickets, who can pique interest in a first round on a Monday. Doha discovered its response. It's more than simply the tennis. No longer. It has to do with a relationship. Eala possesses that connection, that intangible factor with a worldwide diaspora, fervent and ravenous for portrayal. Thus, as we get comfortable for this in-depth analysis, we will unpack everything. Our focus will be on examining the Eala-made technological modifications to break the Czech jinx at last. We are going to examine the figures that support this, the information provided by the attendance record regarding the WTA's prospects in the Middle East. We will talk about the problem of OFWs and how Filipino the community is changing on its own, the tournament revenue models in this area. Naturally, we're going to discuss the actual match, the tenacity, tactical skill, and the amount of courage required for a 20-year-old to enter a coliseum that is completely sold out and deliver her life in performing. Doha is in startle. The WTA is a hive of activity, and Alexandra officially, Eala has put the world on take note. She does not merely take part in these important competitions no more. She is the primary event. Keep checking back, because we are delved deeply into the narrative of a year. Now, to fully comprehend the given severity of today's events, we need to remove the layers. We are unable to examine this triumph in isolation. We must examine the path that led to Doha, the particular dynamics involved in this matchup, as well as the larger background of the 2026 season for Eala is taking shape to be her most successful year ever. Now, let's begin with the Czech's context. Jinx. Although it may sound superstitious, when it comes to professional sports, these trends turn into mental barriers. Entering Eala's record in this match was 0-9 versus Czech players throughout professional competition at all levels. This includes defeats by powerful opponents, such as Katerina Sinikova, Marie Bosova, and her opponent today, of course, Valentova Teresa. During their most recent meeting in October at the Japan Women's Open, Valentova defeated Eala 6-1 in 2025. 6-2, it was far away. The game of Valentova, flat ground strokes, large serve, unrelenting hostility, is ideal intended to hurry a player such as Eala, who enjoys building points and using her left hand, move and spin her opponents. Thus, when the announcement of the draw for that there was a collective moan during the Qatar Open from the field of analysis, this was Eala, who recently achieved a career-high ranking of 45, having her best tennis match ever following an appearance in the Abu Dhabi quarterfinals. And who is it she draws? The sole archetype of the participant. She is unable to defeat a rematch with the woman she was smitten with 4 months prior. However, this is where the 2020 SXS new Eala enters the picture. We observed Abu Dhabi views of it against Alexandrova Katerina. Although she lost that game, the hostility was there, the readiness to enter the court, and had the opportunity to take the ball early. Against Valentova today, Eala didn't merely hold off till the Czech player misses. She removed the racket from her grasp. From the strategies used in the first game were distinctly different. In Japan, Eala was 5 feet behind the baseline, pushed rushing to protect themselves from Valentova's strength. Driven by that overwhelming, Eala stood her ground in the mob. She made use of the quick courts in Doha to her benefit. We observed her using the left-hand slider in the ad court broad, a traditional Rafa Nadal strategy to make the court more accessible and then hit the forehand right away to the open area. She wasn't having any fun. To lose, she was trying to be in charge. The first set served as a master lesson in calmness. Valentova made a strong impression, breaking Eala in the third as anticipated game. Previously, this is where Eala may have panicked or folded. However, we must discuss the crowd. Eala took a break and the stadium didn't get silent. The possibility of "Let's go, Alex" continued to grow louder. It was unrelenting. It produces an atmosphere that is like a pressure cooker. For Valentova, the opponent, who is also young, felt the heat clearly. She began to hit too hard. She began putting pressure on her serve. And Ella's perception blood instantly returned with an incredible backhand down the line victory that almost caused the building's roof to collapse. It was the exorcism that won that opening set. The Czech jinx was visible in person, fading from Ella's nonverbal cues. They pumped their fists more forcefully. The distance between locations increased and assured. When they arrived at the second set, the match wasn't a match of abilities no more. It was a competition of will. And 7,000 people were pressing Ella. She will move forward. Let's turn to the principal feature of this news. Why is this taking place? What makes Alex Eala selling out a Qatari stadium on a Monday? We must examine the demographics. The Middle East, particularly the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, is home to enormous numbers of Filipinos employed abroad. For many years, these neighborhoods have served as a foundation of the area's facilities, healthcare, and service sectors. However, in the realm of professional sports, they haven't frequently has a world-renowned figure to inspire behind in person. Pacquiao was a boxer, yet the majority of his bouts took place in Vegas or Macau. Although basketball is very popular, the NBA is in the United States. Tennis offers a special chance. It's an international tour that goes to these centers. While Alexa is playing in Doha, Dubai, or Abu Dhabi, she is not the player who is playing away. She is the house favorite. This is a huge disturbance to tennis's current state. Typically, the A player from that team is the home favorite, particular nation, or possibly a worldwide like Nadal or Federer. Illinois is establishing a mobile home court edge. At the Australian Open, we witness another city with a significant diaspora of Filipinos. Last week, we witnessed it in Abu Dhabi. Currently, we are witnessing at Doha's peak. Directors of tournaments are companies. Tickets are sold by them. They offer for sale sponsorship. They offer hospitality for sale. Suites, early round matchups have been around for years. At Middle Eastern WDA 1000 events have been negatively impacted by poor attendance. It's a known problem. You frequently see the top 10 competitors in front of a blank seats through the weekend. Alex Eala resolved that issue. She turns on a dormant, devoted, enthusiastic fan base ready to invest funds to sustain their own. When it was revealed that the stadium was instantly sold out for her first game, it communicated with the WDA. The location of tennis enthusiasts is shifting. No longer is it solely about the conventional American or European markets. In particular, the Asian market, the diaspora of Southeast Asia, is a behemoth that sleeps. The waking is Ella. There are financial ramifications to this. If you want Ella to play in the Qatar Open, your annual tournament, you may begin setting up her prime matchups, maximizing TV time spent under the lights audience in the Philippines and local attendance. We may witness wild cards being utilized more deliberately to guarantee that players have this type of pull, are the primary attraction. However, to Eala's credit, this time she didn't require a wild card time. She was ranked independently, which enhances the sweetness of a story. She dominates and is deserving of this place. The popularity of the box office. Now, let's going back to the technical aspects of the momentary match. Since I don't want to minimize the caliber of tennis, we saw the crucial point occurred in the second set, 4-4. This is urgent. Time. From 40 to 15, Valentova was serving. She appeared to hold with ease. However, Ella generated 3 consecutive absolute magic points. Initially, a protective lob that came down on the moving the point back to the baseline and causing a mistake. Next, a forehand returned the winner at 180 kilometers per hour. Serve, pure instinct, pure reaction. And finally, a 15-second shot on breakpoint rally, where Valentova was transferred by Ella from varying the tempo from corner to corner, utilizing topspin and cuts until at last Valentova broke through and scored a backhand. The service break at 5-4 served as the match's dagger. The sound was overwhelming. I'm not sure how Eala recognized the bounce of the ball. Yet she served it out using an ace and a love hold, broad to keep it sealed. The handshake at the internet with experts, but the joy was sheer passion. Eala referred to her chest flag, pointing to the crowd. It was mutually beneficial. Moment, she was raised by the crowd, and she gave him a performance reward that ended a record-breaking losing run. This winning accomplishes several goals for Eala's 2026 season. It starts with defending a point she must remain among the top 50. Secondly, it prepares for a possible conflict with the seeds probably among the top 20 in the following round. Participant. Importantly, however, it eliminates the mental block when playing against large striking checkers. If she is able to defeat Valentova, is capable of defeating Cordova, a new tier belief is unlocked by it. Additionally, we must recognize the scheduling difficulty. Eala engaged in deep play in Abu Dhabi only a few days ago. Double quarters, singles, and semifinals. Although the trip is brief, the weariness is actual. However, adrenaline is a potent medication. The vitality she was given today probably counteract any physical fatigue. But the recuperation during the following 20-40 hours will be crucial. Her mentor in the team must carefully handle this. The media is the primary draw. Commitments, autographs, and emotional spending. Remaining grounded following a shock like this is frequently more difficult, more than the actual match. However, let's examine the Qatar Open's overall picture. With multiple well-publicized withdrawals, Sabalenka, Pegula, Kirova, and a spark was needed for the tournament. They need a plot. They have a movement. They got a plot. The early week has been salvaged by Eala mania. The event's buzz. Each and every news source in Doha is discussing Filipinos. Phenomenon. The local newspapers are now in circulation. Pictures of the crowd on the front page. This puts the other players under strain. Secondly, imagine playing as one of the top 5 seeds on court 1 with 200 spectators in attendance, while on center court is the 45th ranked player in the world, with 7,000 yelling supporters. It interferes with the order of things. It compels the establishment to take note. We observed remarks made by Darius Seville, but in private. The other players have to be believing. I must bring my best game if I play her, as I'm competing with the audience as well. It reminds me of when did Maria Sharapova initially emerge? Leah introduced the Chinese viewers to the fold. However, this feels different, due to the diaspora component. Eala's everywhere is home. As we examine, the one thing is evident from the match's statistics. Out! Eala's count of unforced errors. It was far below her average. In high levels of pressure, mistakes typically rise. They went down for Eala. This indicates that she has matured. Mental exercise. She is currently 20 years old. She no longer has the title of junior champion. Moving up to the professional level. She's a seasoned pro. She's been traveling for a few years. Her lumps have been taken. She has acquired the ability to control her anxiety. She had her graduation ceremony today. Mental fortitude. The headlines that sold out will take over the feeds on social media, and with good reason. It's a dream of marketing. However, for the purists in tennis, the headline The Power Hitter Challenge is solved by Eala. The secret to her breaking the top is that 20. The hand belonged to her. She possesses the speed. The inquiry has consistently been, can she takes in and reroutes the speed of the big girls? Today, in opposition to Valentova's response, heavy ball, was a resounding indeed. What does this leave us with then? The Qatar Open is just getting started, but the pivotal time may have already occurred. It's not only that she's shocked. 1. Because of how important it was to lots of people. Tennis is frequently charged with being aloof or elitist. Today in Doha, it seemed approachable, lively, and amazingly vibrant. Alexandra Eala is establishing a connection between the sport and individuals. Additionally, if she continues to play, she won't just be selling out like this. The initial round, she will be selling out. Sunday's final. As we conclude our coverage of this momentous Doha day, it is critical to stand back and examine the trajectory. Times such as here, sports, culture, and economy come together. Collisions are uncommon. Alexandria's initial winning round at the Qatar Open will go to record in the books as a straight defeat of Teresa Valentova in sets. However, In remembrance of the thousands of people who were millions of people watching back in both in the Philippines and globally, it will go down in history as the Eala Era Day really went worldwide. We frequently discuss sports arrival moments. For Eala, her arrival was possibly her junior in the U.S. Open, either her initial WDA title or this it feels different now. Now is the time. She went from being a bright young talent to a player in a franchise. When it's time to sell out of a stadium in a different nation, on a Monday afternoon, you're not simply a tennis player. You are a symbol. You are markets that are in flux. The path forward in Doha is hilly. The draw doesn't get simpler. Grand Slam champions exist, hiding in the upcoming rounds. There are players with greater expertise, more authority, and superior ranks. However, none of they possess what Eala currently possesses, the momentum of a wave of titles. The Czech jinx is no longer alive, buried beneath the strict court rules to the compound of Khalifa. The assurance is sky high, and the throng of people is only going to grow. If you believe it was noisy today, just think of what the environment will be like once she gets there, either the semifinals or the quarterfinals. We may be considering a scenario in which the competition must allow for overflow. Viewing areas. Looking past this week, the consequences for the remainder of the season are enormous. Eala is expected to play in Dubai after that, then the Indian Wells Sunshine Double in Miami. These are the largest stages, not include the Grand Slams. By demonstrating she is able to manage the strain into the major attraction of a WTA 1000 here, she is positioning herself in Doha for extraordinary run in the U.S. To the points she is currently earning are essential for seeding. If she is able to crack the top 32 by Roland Garros' time, she avoids the top seeds as she turns around. Early on, that's the strategic objective. However, the emotional objective. Riding this wave is the emotional objective, as far as she can go. We also need to acknowledge the Filipino population in Qatar. Today's co-stars were you. Display. You demonstrated your passion to the globe. Appears. You won a tennis match. Becomes an identity celebration. It was a lovely reminder of how powerful sports ought to bring individuals together who live far away. Thus, the whole Doha shocked is still the headline. But maybe we shouldn't be surprised. No more. Maybe we should simply get used to Alexandra Eala is a powerful force of nature, and she's only beginning. The stadium was instantly sold out in the opening game. Sure, but I have a feeling that her next match tickets are disappearing right now. Thank you. Thank you for coming to this unique, deep-diving analysis, which has been an honor. To dissect one of the most thrilling days in the history of Asian tennis. We'll return with additional coverage, just like Eala carries on with her desert campaign. Keep your eyes on the ball till then, and continue to observe the blossoming star from the east. From the studio, good night. Believe it was noisy today. Just think of what the environment will be like once she gets there, either the semifinals or the quarterfinals. We may be considering a scenario in which the competition must allow for overflow. Viewing areas. Looking past this week, the consequences for the remainder of the season are enormous. Eala is expected to play in Dubai after that, then the Indian Wells Sunshine Double in Miami. These are the largest stages, not include the Grand Slams. By demonstrating she is able to manage the strain into the major attraction of a WTA 1000 here, she is positioning herself in Doha for extraordinary run in the U.S. To the points she is currently earning are essential for seeding. If she is able to crack the top 32 by Roland Garros' time, she avoids the top seeds as she turns around. Early on, that's the strategic objective. However, the emotional objective. Riding this wave is the emotional objective, as far as she can go. We also need to acknowledge the Filipino population in Qatar. Today's co-stars were you. Display. You demonstrated your passion to the globe. Appears. You won a tennis match. Becomes an identity celebration. It was a lovely reminder of how powerful sports ought to bring individuals together who live far away. Thus, the whole Doha shocked is still the headline. But maybe we shouldn't be surprised. No more. Maybe we should simply get used to Alexandra Eala is a powerful force of nature, and she's only beginning. The stadium was instantly sold out in the opening game. Sure, but I have a feeling that her next match tickets are disappearing right now. Thank you. Thank you for coming to this unique, deep-diving analysis, which has been an honor, to dissect one of the most thrilling days in the history of Asian tennis. We'll return with additional coverage, just like Ella carries on with her desert campaign. Keep your eyes on the ball till then, and continue to observe the blossoming star from the east. From the studio, good night.